Hello friends, if you're new, welcome. How about going down, tapping the subscribe button and clicking the bell so you don't miss any content that I put out? For my fans and subscribers, welcome back. I really do appreciate the patronage. Today's topic, Jim Jones, the beginning of People's Temple. And yes, People's is spelled correctly. Jones needed a new place of worship because his congregation was growing. He purchased a building that could seat 700 people, yet was still in a lower class district. Due to middle class America moving to the suburbs in the mid-1950s, he had his choice of property because this affected faith-based organizations as well. Community Unity celebrated its move with a name change. At first, Jim named it Wings of Deliverance, but then changed it to what we recognize today, People's Temple. I made a mistake in an earlier video putting an apostrophe in People's, but one of Jim's main goals was to discourage possessions, so there is no apostrophe. With his congregation now large enough and racially diverse, Jim now turned his attention to gaining influence with Indianapolis politicians. Empathy worked well for him in establishing community unity, and his personality worked well at lower administrative levels. Yet he had absolutely no clue how to deal with the highest public officials. But lucky for him, he knew someone that did. Luckily for him, Marceline did. As the daughter of a former city councilman and of parents involved in important civic issues, she understood that one could not develop working relationships with these people through demands. You had to examine the issue from all sides and propose solutions. She started attending meetings at City Hall and in people's private homes because Jim was not interested in any meeting where he was not the center of attention. Marceline would introduce herself, but rarely spoke after that. She mainly just listened. After these meetings, she wrote extensively about the people she met, who seemed most capable as well as the best connected. She also made a point of cultivating relationships with them. She would bring home information packets about school and city proposals and read every line. Then she passed on to Jim the important and salient points, especially if these were not easy to understand by people not familiar with the intricacies that the law required for public projects. He let Marceline do all the legwork, but at important hearings, Jim was there, and he made the relevant points, impressing the panels in the process. He also made pragmatic suggestions. This gained him a reputation as one who really understood how these things worked. As with everything else, he learned quickly. When lower income areas started receiving much needed improvements, Jim was given credit, not his wife, who was the true brain behind it all. Marceline didn't mind it though, because at last, she and Jim were a team. She was also the mastermind behind establishing People's Temple's next source of income. The elderly in the congregation, mostly black women, got to the point where they could not take care of themselves and were placed in public nursing homes. Jim regularly visited them and tried to cheer them up. But when he got home, he complained about the substandard conditions to his wife. Marceline started investigating licensing requirements, and soon their home was certified by the state, and they accepted several live-in patients. The government paid for their care. This wasn't a scam either, like a lot of home care places were. Inspectors always came away from their home impressed, especially with Marceline. Buoyed by this initial success, they formed a corporation and took over the management of several nursing homes. This not only provided jobs for their congregants, it also supplied much-needed funds to pay for outreach programs and their promotion. Jim also purchased a daily 15-minute slot on a local radio station. Although short, it was long enough for a prayer, mini-sermon, remarks on relevant issues, and announcing temple-sponsored events. The most important event took place in June 1955 when Jones shared the pulpit with Reverend William Branham, one of the most famous evangelists in the country at that time. A man named Archie I. James attended the event and was duly impressed with Jones's all-inclusive message. Afterward, he visited People's Temple and joined with his wife and children. Jones noticed that I. James was a natural leader as well as smart and dedicated. Soon, he gave I. James the title of associate pastor, but with little authority. Jones recognized that it looked good for him to have a black man as a public assistant. Yet, this was not in name only. Jones put I. James in charge of the daily management of the church's public programs. Also due to the income from the nursing homes, the church opened the free restaurant for the hungry who had no money. On the first day, they fed 18 people, and the next, nearly 100. Soon, they were feeding about 2,800 weekly. With their hunger satisfied, they were then invited to choose from donated clothing. For the first time, Jones found himself presiding over a congregation with many children. He wanted to make church fun for them, so he would stop preaching to let the kids stretch. One time, he asked the kids what they wanted to sing, and when they replied, "Here comes Peter Cottontail," that's what the congregation sang. Marceline soon organized youth choirs and dance troupes. In addition to performing at church, they were sometimes invited to perform on local TV shows. Jim used these youth programs as a selling point for parents, especially single mothers. Candidates for public office started dropping in for Sunday services. He encouraged everyone who could to register to vote and then vote. Although he stopped short of telling his congregants how to vote, he did voice his own preferences. Jones knew that in a close election, 300 to 400 votes could make a difference. In exchange for votes, candidates promised support for the programs of People's Temple. Jones now had the influence he wanted in Indianapolis, and People's Temple was transforming into his socialist vision. Although more money was always needed, the income generated from outside appearances, and the nursing homes subsidized the church and the outreach programs. It wasn't enough, though, and Jones heard of another preacher doing the same thing. Thinking he could learn a lot from this preacher, Jones reached out to him. This preacher's name? Father Divine. Well, friends, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and if you want to know when I come out with new content, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. My Twitter, Discord, email, and PayPal links are in the description, along with the source I used for this episode. If you wish to support this channel, you may do so on my PayPal link. Keep learning and searching for truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them, go ahead and watch them and tell me what you think. Until next time, friends, goodbye.